This is the best of First and Last, the podcast, with Mike Golic Jr. and Robin Lundberg.
It is First and Last. Robin Lundberg here with you, Mike Golic Jr. doing the Levitard Show a little bit later this afternoon. So I am flying solo, and I do not understand why we do this to ourselves every year. I really don't. Every single year, same deal. We figure out some way to sow controversy into a LeBron James team, to sow doubt. You know, we take umbrage with particular comments. Fit in, fit out, Kevin Love. The David Blatt situation a year ago. I mean, and that's a legit thing to react to, of course. But it's just over and over again, the Spoelstra bump. There's so many things on an annual basis. It's like a rite of passage to get the NBA playoffs started. And then LeBron winds up falling in the MVP race as well, which we'll get to a little bit later in the show. You know, the MVP is now June 26th. I think they're doing the announcement this year. If you're going to wait until June 26th to do the announcement, maybe you should wait until after the playoffs to decide on the MVP if you're going to wait that long, because it's going to look silly by the time we get there. Because this happens every single year. And then LeBron goes into playoff mode, and you realize, oh yeah, the Cavs have him. It's going to be tough for any of those other teams to win a series because they have the greatest force in the history of basketball on their side. Snotty Drippin tweeted at me last night saying, we have a Hulk. Yeah, it's basically that, right? The scene in the Avengers where Loki says, I have an army, and Iron Man says, we have a Hulk. A great equalizer in LeBron James. And you see a team like Boston, very good team. Nice team. Balanced, well-coached, built like a modern NBA basketball team. They've got defenders, Avery Bradley and Marcus Smart. They've got Isaiah Thomas, a scoring maestro. They've got, interchangeable pieces like Jay Crowder. I mean, a nice team. They ain't beating LeBron James 4 out of 7 times. That's not happening. I mean, you look at the rest of the East. I like the talent on the Wizards, but do we believe that's happening either? Kyle Lowry coming back. Maybe Toronto has the best shot with the other acquisitions they've made. And I understand that the Cavs are not and have not been a great regular season team. And if you're going just on regular season numbers, they are absolutely poachable. And LeBron ain't going to make the finals forever. But whatever context you want to associate to it, there's a reason his team is always the one there. He's a one-man dynasty. I mean, he had to go through pretty darn good Celtics team to get there in the past. Let's not sleep on that Celtics team. Garnett and Allen and Pierce. Before that, the Pistons were pretty good. And the Pacers had a nice squad. And the Bulls, how many games did they win that year that Derrick Rose won the MVP? But every year, it's LeBron James and company making it to the NBA Finals because there are great, great players in the NBA. I mean, really, the level of talent is out of control right now. At the top, especially. If you're talking about the top flight players, look at the MVP race this year. I mean, Russell Westbrook is going to average a triple-double. Amazing. James Harden is having an incredible season to the point where Russell Westbrook is averaging a triple-double, and we wonder whether Russell Westbrook is even the MVP because of what James Harden is doing. Steph Curry, back-to-back MVPs. Sort of reinventing the sport, or at least the face of where the sport has headed. Kawhi Leonard, awesome on both ends. Chris Paul, one of the best point guards of all time. Kevin Durant, an all-time great player, a former MVP. You can go on and on down the line. There's just absurd, top-heavy, superstar Hall of Fame, and not even like regular Hall of Fame, like upper echelon Hall of Fame players. And none of those dudes is close to as good as LeBron James. As having the overall impact he does when he gets there and when the playoffs start. Because if you can spread the floor for him, and the Cavs have some guys that can do that, and if he turns it on, there's never been a singular force like that. And I think LeBron played it kind of coy and said that game didn't matter to him at all. he played a lot different than that. You know, I don't think he attempted a three-pointer in the first half of that game. He was taking it to the rack. The defense was there. It was notched up. And sometimes I guess people could then say, well, why doesn't he always go quite that hard in the regular season? Again, wouldn't that be us falling for it? For the okie doke? I would say perhaps we should defer to his judgment and his preparation and how he decides to do this. Because much like Oscar Robertson was a long time ago averaging a triple-double, last time we've seen somebody go to the finals on such a regular basis, it was the 60s. I think there were 10 teams in the NBA. There was no player movement. None of that stuff. So, he might know what he's doing. You know, we don't do the same thing to Bill Belichick, do we? Bill Belichick and Tom Brady? We don't do the same thing to those guys. Why do we do it to him? We'll make that Straight Talk brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, half the cost. As long as LeBron James is upright and healthy. I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but I am saying I darn sure ain't picking anybody but Cleveland to get out of the Eastern Conference. What say you? 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable networks. Just kind of that, I'm still here, guys. Remember, last year was Steph Curry. Is Steph Curry the face of the NBA? As he surpassed LeBron. We saw what happened in the finals. When Durant won his MVP, same sort of deal. Like, we kind of are itching to have somebody pass him, or we're itching to have him be vulnerable, to feel like maybe it's not the year the Cavs do it. And eventually it's going to come to an end. But as long as he's in his prime, and last night a prime example of it, those other Eastern Conference teams, they feel kind of like bugs on a windshield.
First and last. The podcast.
You know, the Warriors, by the way, credit them. Third straight year, best record in the NBA. 65 wins. You know, when the worst year might wind up being 67 wins, you're doing pretty good. Even if you didn't win the championship the year, you won 73 games. And Steph Curry is now rocking himself. 42 points last night, 11 assists, 5 rebounds. He's been wonderful as of late. He's been back to the form of the last 2 years. And I'm very curious to see how it works when Kevin Durant comes back. You know, I talked about this a couple weeks ago on the show. I'm not hot-taking in the sense of saying that Kevin Durant makes the Warriors worse. You know, you add a player like Kevin Durant, everyone would do it if you had the choice. But there is an adjustment. I mean, we saw it at the beginning of the year. They had to adjust, and Steph Curry took a back seat, and all of us were going, wow, Durant's clearly the best player on the team. And Steph Curry, what happened to him? Then when Durant went down, they had to adjust to playing without Kevin Durant. They struggled. But they found their stride again with Steph Curry as the engine that makes them go. And now all of a sudden, Steph Curry is a supernova again. But when Durant comes back, it's like starting over. They're going to have to adjust. And I would actually say that adjustment to Kevin Durant coming back, because not only are they going to have to adjust to him coming back, he is going to have to adjust to his body. You know, he's dealing with lower extremity injuries. Those are a big deal. We see sometimes how guys can struggle to get acclimated. I think it's good they're going to get him back, you know, at the very end of the regular season. But I would say that readjustment might be, as a singular threat, a bigger threat than any of the teams in the Western Conference, because it could temporarily take the Warriors down a peg, which puts them near the same level as the other teams in the West, like the Houstons and the San Antonios and the Utahs of the world. 888-729-3776, talking about LeBron James's reminder performance last night as well. Let's go to Jack in St. Louis on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Jack, you're up first here on First and Last. Go ahead.
Hey, what's going on, fellas?
Yo.
You know, LeBron overrated. If the refs called the game like the rules say, he would be called for traveling or offensive foul every time he goes to the bucket.
Oh, every time, huh? LeBron is overrated. Please make a case for, like, make a real case on how LeBron is overrated. Go ahead. I
does
dare
it all
you.
the time. I mean,
Does
they
what?
let him get away with it. It's the NBA. It's a conspiracy.
He does what all the time?
He travels all the time when he goes to the rack, and he bulls his way in, which is offensive foul. They call it on 90% of the players in the NBA. Did Shaq bull his way in?
Back in the day, look, I actually don't think people are going to say, "Oh, it's because you're a LeBron stan and all that." I think LeBron gets a bad whistle on the offensive end.
What?
I think he gets
a bad whistle.
I think he gets a great whistle on the defensive end. I think he's allowed to get away with whatever he wants on defense, and they barely ever call a foul on him. And if he does one of his flopping things, he usually gets the whistle in that regard.
Well, he does some traveling things too, and offensive foul
on offense.
Things.
You know how many times LeBron gets hit and they don't call it because he just walks through it. That's why he has to do it.
But they say, that's because he's a big guy.
So
okay,
that doesn't mean it's not a foul. Just because you're big doesn't. It is the Shaq syndrome.
I understand that it's the Shaq thing. But he bulls his way in. Shaq was getting hacked.
But there's nothing wrong with bulling your way in.
He initiates 90% of it.
He's going downhill, but just making some sort of contact going downhill is not a foul. And he gets hit a lot, and if he doesn't, if he's not demonstrative, I think sometimes he doesn't get the whistle. And on the offensive side, for a guy of his caliber, I don't think he gets that crazy a whistle. I mean, if we're looking at the free throw rates, let me just find the free throw rates in the NBA. Michael Jordan, the famous joke was, remember the picture with the Dream Team? It was Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and Michael Jordan. And Bird and Magic joked when they were posing for the picture, don't get too close because it might turn into a whistle. I want to find the free throw attempts per game this year to let you know just exactly where it's not exactly the same as rate, but it's a quick thing for me to look up real quick. James Harden is number 1. He's shooting 11 free throws a game. Westbrook is 2 at 10.5. Then you have Cousins. LeBron James is 11th. He's taking 4 fewer free throws per game than James Harden, 3 fewer than Russell Westbrook per game. Kawhi Leonard, Giannis, Joel Embiid, Isaiah Thomas, DeMar DeRozan, Anthony Davis, Jimmy Butler, DeMarcus Cousins, Westbrook, and Harden all go to the free throw line more frequently than LeBron James. How about Charlie in Virginia? You're up next on First and Last. Go ahead.
Good morning, Lundberg. First off, I want to ask if you're okay. You sound like a little kid who lost his puppy without Golic Jr. there.
Do I sound sad?
Yeah, you sound a little depressed.
I didn't know. There are going to be people who say I sound elated because I get to talk about LeBron. So to each his own. Go ahead.
I didn't want to go as far as your previous caller and calling LeBron overrated. I do feel like well, let me go this way. He is athletic for his size, and if you take pads off a lot of the linebackers that are athletic as he is and put him in high tops, like anybody else, if you have somebody that size coming at you, you're going to get out of the way. And I think that's why he is put on the pedestal that he's put on.
No, he's put on that pedestal. He's put on because he's, inarguably a top 5 player in history. I say the best player in the history of the NBA. The best ever, in my opinion. Yeah. What is it about him that makes people want to discredit him and disqualify him and take stuff away? Yeah, he's big and strong. So, that's part of it. That's it. That's happened in sports. Being big and strong and fast is an advantage. Breaking news. That's the way it is. The thing about LeBron that makes him so special is that he is a genetic freak and he's an IQ freak at the same time. And you rarely get that. He is the guy that broke the mold as far as looking like a creative player. And he also is a basketball genius. He sees the floor in a way that almost no one ever has. The very few, I would put him up there with Magic Johnson and Jason Kidd and Steve Nash and guys like that for the way they saw the floor. So LeBron has the mental aspect of it and the physical aspect of it. You put it in the total package, plus he works on his game. He's basically improved his game every year in some way, shape, or form. Look at his three-point shot this year. It's back all of a sudden. What is he shooting from 3? It's gone down a little bit as of late, but it's 36%, still above league average after he was really struggling from 3 the last few years. I don't get it. The only way anybody I can understand why people would do it is because of the Jordan thing. And if you're a Michael Jordan fan, that should be the thing, you shouldn't be insecure. If you say Michael Jordan's the best player ever, that's as reasonable a take as there could be. I'm not going to sit here and call you an idiot or say he was overrated. I happen to think it's LeBron, but I understand the case for Michael Jordan. That's the consensus answer. That's the Family Feud answer. But that has to be what it is. It has to be Jordan fans who are like, oh, we have to do whatever we can to take him down. Maybe it's Kobe fans too. It was for a while, but I think the Kobe LeBron thing is done with. I can't see anybody possibly making a case for Kobe Bryant at this point against LeBron head-to-head. LeBron crushed the Celtics last night. We'll see if they can get back on track later tonight. The NBA is on ESPN Radio. Tune in tonight as Dwight Howard and the Hawks host MVP candidate Isaiah Thomas and the Celtics, presented by GNC. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Eastern on most ESPN radio stations. Let's go to James in Southern California. James, you're up next here on First and Last with Robin Lundberg. Go ahead.
Hey, man, I had to call in after hearing these first two. It's just remarkable that people continue to say things like this and not give this guy some respect. It's unbelievable. He beat a historically good team last year that won more games than anybody ever, led both teams on all categories, came back from 3-1. Nobody had ever done that before. And all you have to do is look at the teams after he leaves. Cleveland won 61 games his last year there before he left. They won 19 the next year. The Bulls won 57 games, Jordan's last year before he retired. The year he retired, 55.
Yeah,
it's simply remarkable.
The year LeBron left, the winning percentage for the Cavs fell further than the year Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, and Phil Jackson all left the Bulls at the same time. And of course, yeah, you're referencing the 55-win year where the Bulls were a bad call away from the Eastern Conference Finals. Scottie Pippen was arguably the MVP. I don't want to take away from Michael Jordan, but all these little qualifiers, people are always trying to make them, like the Eastern Conference. That's another one, right? People will call up and say, well, if it wasn't for the East, look at the teams he's beaten in the finals. They all have at least 3 Hall of Famers on them. In fact, I could argue, that every single team LeBron has beaten in the finals is better than any team Jordan beat in the finals.
First and Last.
Another big performance, another win for Russell Westbrook and the Thunder. Here's the problem with the triple-double thing, is it's an artificial designation, right, that we gave a name to. Remember the Triple Crown argument with baseball? Miguel Cabrera won the Triple Crown. You could have easily argued, and I would have argued, that Mike Trout had the better season. Just because you win the Triple Crown doesn't mean you have the better season. In fact, when Oscar Robertson averaged a triple-double, I think he came in third in the MVP voting. Now, I don't know what went into it back then, because Bill Russell won it, and that was the same year I think Wilt Chamberlain averaged 50 and 25 or something stupid like that. But Russell Westbrook last night, for instance, here's the point I'm trying to get to. He didn't get a triple-double. 1 rebound short. So it's like a failure in that sense, right? Oh, he didn't get a triple-double, so he didn't break the record. Dude had 45 points, 9 boards, 10 assists, 5 steals, 7 turnovers, a few too many turnovers, but when you're handling the ball that much, you're going to turn it over a little bit. Was 14 to 25 from the floor. 8 of 13 from 3. He never shoots that well from 3. 14 of 25 has got to be one of his most efficient shooting performances of the year. 45 points on 25 shots. So was he any worse last night because he didn't average a triple-double? That's when you get into that tricky territory. That's the point Daryl Morey was trying to make in arguing for Harden as MVP, is just because, you know, we know what triple-double is, you could throw together another random set of statistics that it would be impressive to achieve, and it doesn't have a name. So it doesn't resonate quite the same. Now, averaging a triple-double for a season is still insane. I'm not saying it isn't. I'm just saying because he didn't hit it last night, there shouldn't be any penalty. I mean, he only improved his MVP case in my mind. You know, just like I said at the top of the show, I would never, I don't want to fall for that trick again. I don't know why we do, about doubting LeBron and the Cavs or figuring out some way to put controversy into their season. I've said it, and I'll continue to say it. Like, heart of hearts, if I'm hooked up to a polygraph, LeBron James is always the MVP. I mean, that's what I honestly believe. I know he's not going to win it this year, and in other years, there have been some years where I didn't necessarily think the person who won it should have gotten it, because I thought it was more, you know, Derrick Rose is a good example, maybe one of the more controversial MVPs, could wind up being the only MVP to never make the Hall of Fame, and there are some other instances, but Russell Westbrook, I mean, he's earning that MVP award, and he's carrying that team. I mean, it's very impressive that team has 45 wins. They have no shooting on that roster around them. That's going to be their undoing in the postseason when teams can really focus in on them. But, they got some good players. Steven Adams is a real good player. Taj Gibson, who they acquired, is a good player. Oladipo, has some skill in the backcourt, but that's the Russell Westbrook show. Here was his coach, Billy Donovan.
I think that's happened a lot this year, to be quite honest with you, where he's been close to that. But, again, like even in the locker room now, it's like everybody's excited we won coming on the road. It's a back-to-back. I think it's always tough and challenging to play that way. I really mean it's like no one really talks about all this stuff. And I get when I come out here and people want to talk about it because it is historic. But as it relates to our team, we're just trying to do the things that we have to do so we can play well. And, because once the regular season ends and the playoffs start, it won't be a topic of conversation anymore. So there's only about 6 more days of this. And I think it's all positive because, and I say that in the most respectful way, what Oscar Robertson has meant to the game and what he's done for the game so long ago and what he did during that season to average a triple-double, I think everybody felt that never would have ever been done again in the history of the game. So the fact that he's doing it and all of us can share in it and be a part of it, it is really, really special. But I think we also understand, too, that we all have a job to do. We got to go out and play. We got to get ready to play. We got to prepare. And I think those guys have done a really good job doing that.
Here's how good the top-level players in the NBA have been this year. Steph Curry is going to be second team All-NBA. I mean, obviously it's going to be Westbrook and Harden in the backcourt for the first team All-NBA. Steph Curry's a back-to-back MVP who's averaging 25 points per game, 6.5 assists, 4.5 rebounds, shooting over 40% from three, 47% from the floor, on a team that's already won 65 games. And he's going to be second team All-NBA. It's nuts. It's nuts. Big Steve tweets in on the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed, at Robin Lundberg, at ESPN Radio. Oh, now we're the ones sowing the controversy. We're the ones shading teammates on the gram, calling people out. Look, LeBron can be kind of passive-aggressive at times. I'm not saying I agree with everything he says or does, but the end result is always there. Are we really going to keep doubting the end result? And as far as the methods, I'm not saying necessarily that there is a cause and effect relationship. Let's go back to the Kevin Love thing last year, but it did wind up working out, right? They won the championship. David Black got fired. People didn't like it. They won the championship. So you can not like that stuff, but you can't really turn it into something because it's not hindering the process or the results. I mean, the results are there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight times. Cutes Parton tweets in, it's old now. Let's go and celebrate his accomplishments while we can still watch him play. I mean, that goes for all these guys right now. Obviously, I think it, goes in particular for LeBron, who's not going to be there forever. None of these players are there forever. There are people, if I could go in the Wayback Machine to when we were talking about the likes of Oscar Robertson and Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell. I'm sure there were some versions of that then. Wilt Chamberlain got it. He wasn't a winner like Bill Russell. And now we all hear about him scoring 100 points. We got the famous picture with the sign, and we wish we could have seen it. And there were people then going, oh, he's not a winner. They probably regret not appreciating his career while it was going on. Same thing's happening here. Be interesting to see how these guys perform in the playoffs. I want to see that matchup between Westbrook and Harden. I hope there should be a way to freeze the standings. Let's just end it now. Last night, you know what? That's my idea. Last night was the final night of the regular season. That was a good final night, right? Well, then Westbrook wouldn't. We'll give Russell Westbrook the triple-double and call last night the final night of the season, because it sets up Rockets and Thunder in the first round. The Warriors clinched the best record again. That's done with. The Cavs flexed on the Celtics. If I'm the Cavs, I consider resting my guys the rest of the way. Let the 1 seed be darned at this point. You are now the favorites to win the 1 seed. I think BPI has them at 87% favorite. That would change if they're resting players, of course, but they're in the driver's seat. And I think the mental aspect they put on Boston was significant last night. What else is to be gained these last 4 or so games? That's it. Let's just stop it right here. NBA regular season over with. It was a good night to cap it on.
First and last.
Done a lot of talking about the NBA stars because of the crazy night in the NBA last night. We'll get back to LeBron sending a message to the Boston Celtics. He's done that a few times throughout his career. Russell Westbrook falling a rebound shy of a triple-double, but another monstrous performance. The Warriors clinching the best record in the NBA yet again. All those names, Curry, LeBron, Harden, Westbrook, etc., they're right there. They roll right off the tongue. Baseball doesn't have that. And I wonder why exactly it is. Like an honest question. There was Jason Stark has an article out, you can see it on ESPN.com, about the most popular athletes done via a poll. Surveyed more than 6,000 American sports fans 12 and older. Now, they were allowed to vote for retired players. But only 3 baseball players showed up in the top 50. Derek Jeter at number 13, Babe Ruth at number 30, and get this, Pete Rose at number 50. Pete Rose, huh? But none of those guys are currently playing. There were 15 active NFL players, 2 tennis players, Serena and Roger Federer, and baseball's obviously more popular than tennis, a bunch of basketball players, of course. So why is it that the baseball players don't resonate in star power? Because it's not like there aren't star baseball players. Like, it'd be one thing if there weren't great players. There are. Like, Mike Trout is on his way to becoming one of the greatest players of all time. Right? Clayton Kershaw, many would consider one of the best pitchers of all time. Bryce Harper is a great player with a big personality. There's a lot of guys out there who are really, really good, who are certainly superstar caliber in their ability, but they're not superstars in their recognition and their notoriety. And I don't know, is it a function, Miguel Cabrera, another guy, is it a function of the sport itself? Because baseball is very popular regionally. And think about what it offers regionally. It offers programming, so much programming. And fans will watch. So fans, they watch their favorite team. And I think baseball is the sport where it is most necessary to have some sort of rooting interest to get into it. So people are following their teams and not necessarily the players. Is it because what's done on the field isn't as intrinsically captivating? Is it because the guys in question just aren't that big of personalities outside of maybe Bryce Harper? Is it because they don't appear in the game the entire time? Even in the NFL, the quarterback's on the field like half the time. In the NBA, the star players, when they're in the game, are doing everything. They're on both sides of the court. It just seems to be a curious quirk because there are great players, but they're just not. Mike Trout, he could be here with me right now. He could walk in. If he was dressed like one of the janitorial staff, I'd be like, man, that's a jack janitor. I don't know if I'd necessarily think it was Mike Trout. So it's just a curious thing. And I don't mean it to take a shot or anything like that. I'm genuinely curious. It's not my favorite sport, full disclosure. And perhaps that's kind of it. It's just the things that they're doing. It's people who watch baseball watch for different reasons. And that stuff's not jumping off the screen. The highlights aren't jumping off the screen. They're not involved in every play. We've got a bunch of baseball fans on the staff, Dan Z, JBT. What do you guys think? What do you think the reason for this might be?
I think a lot of it is like a hitter makes up 11% of a 9-man lineup, and then you consider there's 2 lineups. So you'll see that one, the biggest star in a game, Bryce Harper, you'll see him, 5% of the at-bats roughly are going to be him, and I think that has a lot to do with it.
Let's go to Evan in Kansas. Evan, you're up next here on First and Last. Go ahead, Evan.
Hey, Robin, great show. Even Flying Solo, you do a great job.
Thank you.
Hey, man, I got to say, I've thought about this many times, and I'm a big baseball fan. I think there's about two big reasons, and I think your staff pointed to one of them. You know, we can give Russell Westbrook the ball 50 times. We obviously can't do that to Bryce Harper or Mike Trout. And I don't know if the Jack's janitor is going to become a nickname for Mike Trout. I kind of hope not. But the other thing, you know, it's obviously an older demographic. If Pete Rose is even showing up on that list, maybe it's not people that are modern. And here's the other thing I wanted to point out to you that I think is interesting. I think that mainstream American baseball culture does not value individuality and honestly doesn't want people to have a personality. I mean, you look at these baseball players when they go on Saturday Night Live or they try to feature them, they try to say, okay, here's Anthony Rizzo or here's, you know, baseball player X, and they almost seem completely devoid of personality. And I almost wonder if the team would think less of them if they stood out or their individuality stood out.
Well, you get physically assaulted if you stand out, right?
Well, yeah,
you flip your back.
Exactly. So I think our culture. I think it's interesting to see our culture and the Latin culture kind of clash. And I honestly would love to see the Latin culture kind of predominate. I mean, if you're going to have individuals show off, you need to showcase them, you know, with flash and with, you know, and you know, here's Carlos Correa, here's this guy, look at how great he is. And it seems like and I don't want to make this a racial thing, I really don't, but I think that white baseball culture does not want their players to stand out. They don't. It's not respected to be an individual. And until baseball culture changes, they're going to have a real problem with their sport, man.
Yeah, maybe if for a different time that worked, but not now. I'm Robin Lundberg here on First and Last on ESPN Radio. You know, what else could lead to that? What else could they do to sort of get out from under that? Because you look at that poll, Pete Rose is disgraced. You know, like he's 50th. He's the third most popular baseball player, and he's disgraced. He's banned for life from the game. You know, Bartolo Colon is super popular, which I don't get. You know, Bartolo Colon, this is where baseball's kind of backwards, right? I guess, you know, fat guy in a little coat or whatever. Bartolo Colon doesn't have the best reputation away from the field as far as his personal life. Bartolo Colon was a steroid cheater. And Bartolo Colon is, I really can't knock his performance because he's still old and getting it done. So performance is performance. But when we're talking about sports and we're always talking about guys being dedicated and stuff, he's way too overweight for what you would picture a professional athlete to be, right? And he's beloved. He's, you know, Bartolo Colon's like the most, you know, one of the top 5 most popular baseball players. I mean, he's played for his like 100th team. But, you know, the big sexy jerseys and all that stuff.
He pitched a gem last night.
He's a good pitcher. I mean, what are you going to say? I can't, you know, there's part of me that doesn't want him to succeed because I don't like the idea of like athletes being able to be grotesquely out of shape. And that's why baseball is my line of demarcation as a sport. Anything less athletic than baseball, I say, is not a sport. Anything more athletic than baseball is a sport. Baseball's the line because you have guys in baseball that I'm not so sure I would consider athletes, and then you have guys in baseball who are clearly great athletes. But as far as being good at his craft, I cannot knock Bartolo Colon. Let's go to Irving in Arkansas. Irving, you're on next here on First and Last with Robin Lundberg. Go ahead, Irving.
Hey, Robin, I was giving my input on why you think baseball is kind of boring. I think because they don't have a sudden death. Like at the end, the game is just too long and it gets boring real quick. What do you think?
Well, I don't know if it's actually the duration as much. That's part of it. I think, you know, pace is a thing they bring up a lot. And Rob Manfred, to his credit, has tried to be proactive about that. And baseball had a great postseason last year. I mean, the Cubs was such a built-in storyline, but we can't act like they didn't do very well in the postseason. They did. And the World Series did as well. And regionally, extremely healthy. But from star national recognition standpoint, no. And from some of the trends over the last, you know, however many years, no. And it's not, you know, for a fan, there's a lot of the stuff within that you can geek out about, or the game within the game, I like to say. But just inherently entertaining, I mean, I do say it's physically impossible to watch a baseball game from first pitch to last out intently, like we may watch other sports the entire time. It's a different animal in that sense.
First and Last, the podcast.
Dustin Johnson hurting today. Might not get that green jacket because he hurt his back falling down the stairs, which has led me to ask the craziest way or weirdest way you've injured yourself, and bonus points if it cost you or hindered you in a big event. 888-729-3776. JT Palizzi tweets in, I dropped a bowling ball on my toe, broke it in 2 places, and had to have the nail removed for the next 6 months. That sounds bad. Terry Greer tweets in, I was helping my girls work on their marching for ROTC, and I turned the wrong way and threw my back out and then missed the... And then his sentence stopped. He just missed it blank. He missed everything after that. I don't know if I've ever... I once sent my brother to the hospital. I put him in the Ultimate Warrior gorilla press, like a military press above my head, and he was squirming and he fell, and he sliced his ear in half on the bedboard, had to go to the hospital. As far as throwing backs out, I have a phantom throwing back out story. I was a juror on a murder trial. It was a few summers ago. I was doing this early morning shift in New York, by the way. So I would come to the show from 4 to 6, and then I would have to go to jury duty because I don't know why. I should have made something up. I should have said I was biased against something, but I couldn't do it because I was thinking, what if I was ever in this situation? I would want somebody to be honorable. So I had to go to jury duty from like 9 to 5. But then once you got into deliberation, it was like 8 to 7. It was monstrous days. I was not sleeping at all. The NBA Finals were on during that time period, too. So I had to go home and watch the NBA Final. I just was going insane. And we got to a point after days and days and days of deliberating where 11 of us had reached a consensus and the 12th person did not. But not for like an honorable reason. Not because the case didn't sway or whatnot, or either way, not following instructions. This person was not following the instructions and was against everybody else for impure reasons. And we were supposed to reconvene, and the next day she didn't show up and said she threw her back out. And I went into the room, and I told the judge, because I refused to leave until I could say my piece, and I broke down sobbing in front of the judge and all the lawyers and stuff because I was basically going insane. But I was like, I wish... this person was here so I could say, I know that they're lying about this back injury, but I couldn't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt given the evidence at hand. That's my back injury story. Not that it needed to be told there, but it still resonates with me to this day. How about John in Virginia? John, you're up next on First and Last. Go ahead.
I missed Christmas one year. I had my car loaded in the garage and put the garage door up, station wagon, and the door stopped, didn't go all the way up, and I tried to back up, couldn't see the door. I hit the door, bent the door. I put it down. I got between the car and the door and started taking the bracket out of the bottom out, and I could loosen all the screws with my fingers, took them out with my fingers. The bracket flew off, hit me square in the head, and I wound up in the emergency room.
Oh.
That was Christmas Eve, trying to go from Blacksburg to Cleveland, and I missed Christmas.
You missed Christmas? I'm sorry, man.
I missed Christmas. I missed Christmas.
That's too bad. How about Ryan in Oklahoma? Ryan, you're up next here with Robin Lundberg on First and Last. Go ahead.
Yeah. In the 90s, I was a baseball player. I was okay. In 2000, I got married, had a kid, and I was still trying the baseball thing. I had a tryout for the Pittsburgh Pirates. The night before, I was vacuuming the floor, bent down, and blew my knee out. And I was done.
So your baseball career ended due to a vacuum?
Yes.
Oh, man, I'm sorry, dude. What do you do now?
I drive a semi for Coca-Cola.
Do you enjoy it? It's been a good couple days for Coca-Cola, given what happened to Pepsi, huh?
Yes, we love that.
Well, I'm sorry about your baseball career, and I hope you don't hold it against vacuums from here on out. What about Joe in Cincinnati? Joe, you're up next on the show. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, after those last two guys, I don't know. Mine doesn't quite rank. Missing a baseball career and Christmas, my God.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But I felt, kind of empathy with the baseball player a while back that had the whole sneeze thing. I had a vicious sneeze one time, locked my whole back up. I was driving, and it was everything I could do to finish getting home. Just using my hands, I couldn't turn my head or nothing, and I had to lay flat on my stomach for several hours at home, and I missed my mom's birthday party. So, yeah, that's some rough stuff to go through when your whole back gets locked up.
Yeah, the back, I mean, the back affects everything. Down to your hamstrings and the back of your legs on top of it. Kevin Hammond tweets in with a golf-related injury, since the entry point to this conversation is Dustin Johnson's injury, and I know Mike and Mike are going to be talking a lot about it because he is iffy for the Masters. Kevin Hammond tweets in, I walked into my buddy's backswing on a golf course, broke my nose, and had a black eye for my wedding 4 days later. Oh, man. Wifey must have been so mad about that. How about Ryan in North Carolina? Ryan, you're up next here with Robin Lundberg on First and Last.
Hey, man. So back in the day when I was playing football, I was coming out and I was getting my first chance with the starters and coming out 2-a-days. After our second week, I felt good going in the season. So I decided at an event I could jump a bonfire. In the process, got third-degree burn on my ankle. Tried practicing the next day. Coach obviously noticed I couldn't walk. And so for the quarter of that season in my starting position, there went that aspect my junior year.
Yeah, fire, don't mess with fire. I think we can say that fairly, broadly. That's one of the not many things you can paint with a broad brush. Fire, be careful. Jim in Texas. Jim, you're up next on the show. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Just wanted to let you know I actually broke my leg by being pinned between a wall with a driverless golf cart. I was the equipment manager for a AF2 football team, and threw a bag of laundry up on my golf cart that I used to transport stuff. Came across the front of it, and the bag tipped, hit the gas pedal, and pinned me between the wall and the golf cart.
Who knew golf was so dangerous? I mean, we've got the guy, black eye for the wedding. We got Dustin Johnson with the Masters. You've got you being hit by a golf cart. Golf, hazardous activity. Ron in Wisconsin. Ron, you're up next. What do you got, Ron?
Well, actually, I was in high school, was a football player, and lunchtime on Friday, basically we were tossing the football around in the parking lot, and I ran for a pass and actually ran into a moving car, dented the side of the car in, flipped up onto the hood, and broke the windshield. And I bruised my thigh so badly that I was unable to play in the homecoming game the next day.
Oh, man. Nobody yelled game off? No, you're supposed to, game off, game on. Nobody yelled game off for you, huh? How about Ben in New Mexico? Ben, you're up next. Go ahead.
Hey, it's Brandon. And
Brandon.
Was out golfing for my bachelor party, and on the 19th hole, took a bad errant shot off the head, missed my wedding and honeymoon due to a severe concussion. And then when we decided to renew our vows, the golf course that we had the wedding and reception and everything at, slipped on some rice, broke my ankle, and was in traction, so I missed my honeymoon twice.
Dude, did you quit golf?
At the
your
same
wife
golf course.
Your wife would have been totally in line to ask for you to quit golf, right? Did you quit golf?
I quit golf. I absolutely quit golf.
Are you still married, by the way?
Monty Jones and the Atlanta Falcons, I quit that crack after that. I was like, heck no.
How about Griffin in South Carolina? Griffin, you're on First and Last here with Robin Lundberg. Go ahead.
Well, I went to a football camp in ninth grade. Coaches told me to go play, go up there and get some quarterback training. And after we played that day, I went and played basketball with a couple buddies after. Went to go shoot, come down, landed, broke my ankle, and lost my starting job.
Man, well, you guys have had some bad luck and bad situations. I didn't realize. I mean, I guess with the audience we've got across the country here, there's bound to be that many stories. But I'm feeling for everybody. All right, Ray, you're up last here on First and Last. Let's see if we can go out with a triumphant tale. Go ahead.
How's it going, Robin?
Good, man.
I was going off a high dive at a pool, and both of my quads locked up as soon as I hit the water. I almost drowned. I barely made it up to the side of the pool. No one really realized what was going on, and I was having such bad leg spasms the next day I couldn't play my football game.
Well, at least you didn't drown. I mean, the moral of the story there is you did not drown, and you were able to call in today. It's First and Last. Robin Lundberg, Mike Golic Jr. We take you up until Mike and Mike every Monday through Friday. Golic Jr. is doing the Le Batard Show after Mike and Mike today at 10 a.m. Of course, we were doing that topic because of Dustin Johnson falling down the stairs. His status iffy for the Masters. What does that mean? Greeny will give you his analysis. They'll give you an update on Johnson's status, plus all of the basketball news, of course. Russell Westbrook, another huge night, even if it wasn't a triple-double. The Warriors clinched the best record in the NBA for the third consecutive season. 67-win season could wind up being their worst one if they win a few more games before this season is over. And LeBron James with a reminder. And allow me to reintroduce myself performance.
Thank you for listening to the First and Last podcast. You can listen and subscribe to all ESPN podcasts in the Listen tab of the ESPN app. First and Last.